There is a dangerous illusion most of us carry. We believe character is revealed when people are smiling, calm, and composed. We take their words at face value. We trust the polish of their manners. We confuse performance with reality. Carl Jung warned against this illusion. He wrote that the persona, the social mask we all wear, is not designed to reveal the truth. It is designed to conceal it. The mask is functional, necessary even, but never the whole picture. And this is why so many of us misjudge others. We trust the charming colleague who later unravels into cruelty. We overlook the timid friend who turns out to have steel in their spine. We assume the mask is the person, when in fact the mask is just the stage makeup. Jung discovered that if you want to glimpse someone's true nature, you cannot rely on the surface of the persona. You have to wait for the moment when the mask cracks. Those cracks come most reliably in two crucibles: when someone has power over the powerless, and when they are betrayed. These are not accidents. They are X-rays. How a person treats those beneath them reveals whether their empathy is genuine or circumstantial, and how they handle betrayal reveals whether their integrity is rooted or merely performed. By the end of this exploration, you will know how to see through both crucibles. You will know how to watch for fractures in the persona that reveal the shadow underneath. And you will know how to use those insights not to judge recklessly, but to choose wisely, who to trust, who to invest in, and who to walk away from before the damage deepens. This is not about cynicism. It is about clarity. Once you see what Jung saw, the way people treat the powerless and the way they respond to betrayal will never look like small moments again. They will look like what they are, the two most reliable revelations of character. In two essays on analytical psychology, Jung described the persona as a kind of mask, designed on the one hand to make a definite impression upon others, and on the other to conceal the true nature of the individual. The persona is not a lie. It is a compromise. We need it to function in society. To hold a job, to sit at a dinner table, to navigate a crowded street, the persona keeps our rough edges smoothed, our impulses contained. But every mask has a cost. What it hides does not vanish. It slips into the unconscious and gathers force. Jung called that hidden reservoir the shadow. The shadow is not only the dark urges we repress. It also contains the strengths, truths, and instincts we exile because they don't fit the role we're trying to play. If the persona is what society demands from us, the shadow is what society told us to bury. And in Jung's clinical experience, the persona fractures most predictably, and the shadow bursts through most vividly, in two crucibles, when someone has power over another, and when they feel betrayed. Modern psychology confirms Jung's intuition. In 1963, Stanley Milgram conducted his infamous obedience experiments at Yale. Volunteers were instructed to administer what they believed were electric shocks to a stranger when the stranger answered questions incorrectly. The shocks weren't real, but the participants believed they were. Two-thirds continued delivering what they thought were dangerous levels of voltage, simply because an authority told them to. It wasn't their polite demeanor or their stated values that mattered. It was how they treated someone powerless when the surface of civility was stripped away. A decade later, Zimbardo's Stanford prison experiment revealed the same fracture. College students role-playing as guards slipped into cruelty far faster than anyone expected. Power pulled the mask away. What remained was not politeness but shadow. And Berkeley psychologist Dacher Keltner has shown in decades of research what he calls the power paradox, the very qualities that help people rise, empathy, perspective-taking, fairness, often erode once they gain authority. With power comes a measurable decline in empathy and an increase in impulsive, sometimes ruthless behavior. Power is the first crucible. When someone holds authority over another, a child, an employee, a stranger serving them food, their persona is tested. Some protect. Some exploit. Some reveal strength. Some reveal cruelty. The second crucible is betrayal. Psychologist Roy Baumeister's work in the 1990s showed that betrayal elicits some of the most intense emotional responses humans can experience. Stronger than most losses, failures, or insults. To be betrayed is to have trust weaponized against you. And in that moment, the persona often collapses. Some erupt in rage. Some withdraw into icy silence. Some reveal compassion they didn't know they possessed. And those who are highly sensitive, about 15 to 20% of people, as Elaine and Arthur Aron's research suggests, often notice the fracture first. Their nervous systems register subtle cues, micro-expressions, tonal shifts that others miss. They sense when the shadow is about to break through. Together, these crucibles, power and betrayal, confirm Jung's insight. Character is not revealed in the smoothness of persona, but in its fractures. Consider Michael. He was the kind of colleague everyone described as a good guy. Mid-level manager at a tech firm, sharp dresser, easy smile. Calm under pressure. Supportive in meetings. If you only saw the surface, you'd assume he was exactly what his persona projected: steady, reliable, kind. The mask held until one Tuesday afternoon. An intern, nervous on her first major assignment, made a coding mistake. It wasn't catastrophic, just a slip easily fixed. But something about it pierced Michael's mask. In front of the whole team, his voice sharpened. "We've gone over this 3 times already," he snapped. "Maybe this role is too advanced for you." The room froze. The intern flushed. Colleagues shifted uncomfortably. And just as quickly, Michael smoothed his expression, adjusted his tie, and carried on as if nothing had happened. That moment was an X-ray. Months later came betrayal. Michael discovered that a close friend, someone he had trusted for years, had repeated a private doubt of his to another colleague. A small betrayal, but it cut deep. Michael's response? He vanished. No confrontation. No clarification. Calls ignored. Texts unanswered. The friendship ended overnight. Neither incident was explosive. But both were revealing. The intern humiliated. The friend abandoned. In each, the persona fractured and the shadow slipped through. We all know a Michael. Jung stressed that the persona doesn't collapse randomly. It fractures along habitual lines. Over time, 3 recurring patterns show themselves. 1. The mask keeper. This is the person whose identity is invested almost entirely in appearances. Meticulous, controlled, endlessly careful about how they're perceived. Their discipline is their strength, until it isn't. When the mask is pierced, the shadow surges with shocking force. Sarcasm, cruelty, rage. One slip at a family dinner. One careless joke at their expense. And suddenly the cultivated calm is shattered. The mask keeper's strength is reliability. Their risk is eruption. Their path forward is to practice small doses of authenticity in safe spaces, so the mask doesn't carry the entire psychic weight. 2. The Betrayal Reactor. This type lives in loyalty. Generous, protective, endlessly patient with those they trust. But betrayal cracks them open like nothing else. When trust is broken, the persona doesn't bend, it collapses. Some lash out. Some vanish. The relationship is severed. Their strength is devotion. Their risk is cold vengeance or permanent severance. Their path forward is learning to address small breaches openly, so the shadow doesn't save all its force for the one devastating betrayal. 3. The power holder. Charming, agreeable, easy to be around, until authority is placed in their hands. Power strips the mask. Some become protective leaders. Others, as Milgram and Zimbardo showed, slip into arrogance or cruelty with alarming speed. Their strength is the potential for fairness. Their risk is exploitation. Their path forward is to watch themselves in low-power contexts. How do they treat servers, interns, or children? The answer is often the truest mirror of character. These three types are not boxes. They are lenses. Most of us carry elements of all three, but one tends to dominate. And when the persona fractures, the shadow slips through the dominant crack. Every strength carries its danger. The mask keeper risks isolation. The more perfect the mask, the more violent the eruption when it fails. Friends wonder if they ever knew the person at all. The betrayal reactor risks inflation. Betrayal can swell the ego with moral certainty. I am pure, you are corrupt. Nuance collapses. The world divides into good and evil, loyalty and treachery. The power holder risks absorption. Sensitive observers can end up carrying the cruelty of those in authority, mistaking it for their own failure. Jung called this identification, confusing another's shadow for your own. The body feels it as tightness, anxiety, dread that doesn't match the facts of your own life. These dangers do not make the shadow evil. They make it powerful. Which is why Jung insisted that the task is not denial but integration. If the persona is the mask and the shadow is what leaks through, integration is the art of making them speak to each other. The first move is what I call the gradual revelation protocol. Begin with the lightest observation. I noticed you grew quiet in that meeting. I wondered if something shifted for you. Then pause. Watch. If curiosity opens, go deeper. If defensiveness spikes, stop. The power is in pacing. Reveal in increments, not all at once. The second move is containment. Sensitive people need what I call the container rule. When your chest tightens or your breath shallows, pause. Name silently, this tension isn't mine. Exhale twice. Return to ground. In 30 seconds, you've reminded your nervous system to distinguish between empathy and enmeshment. The third move is boundary setting. Boundaries are not walls but membranes. Flexible, alive. The language must be neutral and precise. That doesn't match my experience, here's what I intended. Or, I'm not available for that interpretation. We can discuss this, not that. Calm, concise, not cruel. The fourth move is correction. Integration is iterative. You will falter. The risk is collapse after the mistake. The remedy is repair. I overreacted. Here's what was really happening for me. Or journaling what pattern was triggered and how to catch it earlier next time. These are not grand transformations. They are micro practices. Small disclosure, small pause. Somatic reset, short boundary. Honest repair, quiet recommitment. Over time, the persona is no longer brittle and the shadow is no longer exiled. Jung warned repeatedly, working with the shadow has its own traps. The first is inflation, mistaking clarity for superiority. The safeguard is humility, deliberately seeking perspectives that unsettle you. The second is the hermit fallacy, mistaking withdrawal for strength. True individuation requires relationship. The safeguard is exposure in doses, safe enough relationships where growth can happen. The third is the helper's snare, using insight to diagnose or rescue others while ignoring your own wounds. The safeguard is a reminder, never weaponize psychological insight. Each has a tripwire. Certainty rising while curiosity falls. Inflation. Avoiding all connection? Hermit fallacy, more focused on others' shadows than your own? Helper's snare. These signals are not failures. They are invitations to correct course. We began with a danger, the illusion that character is revealed in polished surfaces. Jung warned us not to be deceived. The truth is not found in the smoothness of persona but in its cracks. In how people treat the powerless. In how they respond to betrayal. But here is the paradox. The shadow is not only danger. It is also possibility. The fractures that reveal cruelty in one person reveal integrity in another. Power given to one person leads to humiliation, given to another it leads to protection. Betrayal leads one to vengeance, another to clarity and forgiveness. Integration makes the difference. The unintegrated shadow erupts destructively. The integrated shadow lends weight to the persona, gives it depth, makes it real. The mask is no longer brittle because it is no longer pretending. The sensitive manager who knows their temper will surface under stress prepares containment instead of denial. The loyal friend who recognizes their fury at betrayal channels it into boundaries instead of vengeance. The sensitive soul who once absorbed everyone's pain learns to return what isn't theirs. The condition is simple but never easy, power with consciousness, or power without it. Without integration, you remain at the mercy of eruptions. With it, you become someone who can be trusted, not because you never fracture, but because you know how to integrate when you do. This is the paradox Jung left us. The most dangerous cracks are also the clearest revelations. And the very parts of ourselves we fear most, once owned, become our greatest sources of strength. So when the mask slips, in yourself or in others, don't look away. Look closer. Because what emerges is not an accident, it is the truth asking to be integrated. If you've stayed this long, you now know what most people never learn, that persona conceals, but fracture reveals. So here's the invitation. Look back at the framework, the mask keeper, the betrayal reactor, the power holder. Which one feels most familiar to you? Which fracture have you seen in yourself, or in someone close to you? Comment below with a phrase, I see myself in the mask keeper. Or, I've lived the betrayal reactor. Or, I've met the power holder. Naming the pattern loosens its hold. That ritual is not just engagement, it is practice. And if you're ready to go further, the next step is essential. Because once you can see someone's shadow fracture, you need to know how to protect yourself from being pulled into it. Projection doesn't just wound the projector, it recruits everyone around them into the distortion. That's why in the next video we'll dive into one of Jung's most unsettling warnings, projection contagion. How to recognize when someone is dragging you into their distorted story, and how to step out before it consumes your reputation, your relationships, or your sanity. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss it. Because if today showed you how to glimpse true character, the next will show you how to keep your own intact when others try to rewrite your reality. See you in the next dimension.